Mr. Speaker, the sun was lazily rising on the horizon. It was around breakfast time on a stunning Sunday morning. It was quiet, peaceful, calm. People felt secure. There was a small tropical breeze as the American flag was being raised on a nearby flagpole. It was this day that Luke Trahan, a 22-year-old sailor from southeast Texas, noticed large formations of aircraft darkening the glistening sky. He kept watching in awe until suddenly the aircraft broke formation, dove from the sky, and unleashed a fury of deadly, devastating bombs and torpedoes on a place called Pearl Harbor in the Pacific. It was this day, 70 years ago this morning, when Luke and his fellow sailors, soldiers, and Marines saw war unleashed upon America. It was December 7th, 1941. The Japanese had caught America by surprise and took advantage of an unprepared nation. And after the smoke cleared on that morning of madness, 98 Navy planes and 64 Army aircraft were destroyed. Wing 1 lost all but 3 of its 36 aircraft. 2,471 Americans, servicemen and civilians, were killed by this unwarranted invasion of terror from the skies. The pride of the United States Navy, the battleships, West Virginia, California, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Utah, Maryland, Nevada, and Arizona were trapped in the harbor. They made easy targets for the Japanese pilots. The sailors on board these battle wagons fought with the courage of an entire legion of warriors when they were attacked by a skillful, fanatical, and tyrannical enemy. All of these fierce U.S. Navy battleships were sunk or damaged. Their guns, Mr. Speaker, are now silent. The hull of the USS Arizona became the sacred graveyard in the peaceful Pacific for more than 1,177 American sailors and Marines. I have seen, Mr. Speaker, the oil that still seeps to the surface from the hull of the battleship Arizona. Luke Trahan and his Navy buddies in Patrol Wing 1 quickly got organized, prepared, and waited for 2 days for the expected land invasion by the Japanese. It never came. But America was at war. It was World War II, and the war was long. It spread from the Pacific to Europe to Africa to the Middle East to Asia. The Japanese, then the Nazis, seemed undefeatable. But even the Japanese were concerned about the spirit of America. The Japanese commander of Pearl Harbor invasion remarked that Japan and what it had done was wake a sleeping giant. World War II was hard. Millions served in uniform overseas. Millions served on the home front. All sacrificed for the cause of America. The nation woke from a somber sleep of neutrality and with our allies defeated the tyrants that would rule the world. That was a time when Americans put aside all differences and united to defend freedom in our nation. Mr. Speaker, I'm always intrigued by the stories of those war heroes and the folks of that generation. There isn't one of them that cannot recall the exact moment and place they were when they heard the news of Pearl Harbor. Both of my parents, barely teenagers at the time, still talk about what they were doing when they heard on the radio that broadcast that Sunday morning about the invasion. Until September 11th, this was the deadliest attack on American soil. December 7th, 1941, a date that will live in infamy. Those were the words of President Franklin Roosevelt that became forever embedded in the minds of patriots across our land, igniting and launching a nation into the fiery trenches of battle throughout the world. Those of that greatest generation proved that when freedom of this nation is threatened, our people will stand and fight. They'll bring the thunder of God upon our enemies. Defending freedom and liberty was the battle cry of the sailors, Marines, and soldiers that died 70 years ago at Pearl Harbor. We remember December 7th, 1941, and the Americans who stood tall and kept the flame of America burning brightly. They were a remarkable bunch of people. They were the Americans. My friend, Petty Officer Luke Trahan, stayed in the United States Navy 38 years, either on active or reserve status. He wore his uniform every Memorial Day, every Veterans Day, and spent a lot of time speaking proudly about this country. He died 4 years ago on December 5th, 2007. He was 89 years of age. And that's just the way it is. I yield back.